Okay, welcome back. So now from your last video, you should have watched part one first, and one of you will be writing up for me a basic description of what you did with one word at least. Two's fine, but I would like to see a word that was high frequency. Based on the word and phrase tool, it was either yellow or green, right? I would like to know the definition that fit within the context that you had in Outliers. Okay, so how is it used there? What does it mean there? And that meaning needs to make sense to you, right? Not just a dictionary definition, but something that you can explain what the word means, even if that's a couple synonyms, okay? And then you looked in the word and phrase tool, and you were able to tell me what disciplines it's frequent in or most frequent in, okay? So that should be in a write-up. And then finally, you looked at some examples of how the word was used in other academic texts. That was that lower piece of the word and phrase tool where it gives you all these examples. So you're looking now to say, you know, is the word used in similar ways? Does it mean the same thing? Or is one of the meanings that's frequent very particular to a certain definition? So, for example, if we had the word suspension, right? If it were used within the context of auto mechanics, I know that mechanics wasn't one of the specific categories of disciplines over there, but you know, if you're talking about the suspension of a car, it's different than a suspension bridge, which is different than, you know, we keep someone in, you know, well, okay, here's an example, what the school principal, you know, assigns after you, you know, put graffiti in the bathroom, right? So different word meanings. So how is the word typically used? 3 or 4 sentence write-up, send it to me. After this activity, whoever didn't write that one will write this one. So if Sam wrote the first one up, Kaylin writes the second, Sam writes the next one, etc. Okay, here we go. So now we've talked about vocabulary. Let's look at 3 lessons of Joe Flom. So the first thing I want to know is who in the world is Joe Flom, but more importantly, why do we care? Why does Gladwell care about Joe Flom? Why is he using him? So I want you to have a couple minutes of conversation about this. Think about his story. The book's called Outliers. What makes Flom an outlier? What's particular about him? Why is he being discussed in this book? You're going to have a couple minute conversation about that. One of you is going to write that up in the email you're going to send me, and you're going to give me, you know, 2, 3, 4 sentences that tell me what you know about Flom, okay? Summarized. Do that now. See you in a minute. All right, welcome back. So now we've contextualized Flom a bit to the whole theme. The next thing I want to think about is lesson number 1, which is section 3, right? The importance of being Jewish. Now, remember we said it's probably not just about being Jewish, okay? It is about being Jewish, but it's about something beyond. And specifically when I'm thinking something beyond, I'm thinking of these big themes about being an outlier, being successful, right? So we've talked about kind of the environment, okay, that you're born into. You were born on a particular month. You couldn't help that, right? But it made a difference for getting into a hockey league, or you know, you were born about the time that put you in the place of being a young student developing with computer technology. So Bill Gates and other people who became very big in the computer world were born at a similar time with similar kinds of opportunities. So one piece is when you were born, but the other piece is what does that have to do with your opportunities, right? Your parents, your community has to do with your opportunities. So the whole theme about the parent club that buys the computers, or you know, the parent who facilitates your ability to work with something, or you know, whoever, but you know, there's these community factors. And then there's that 1,000-hour rule, 10,000-hour rule, right? 1,000 would be nice. That's good. 10,000-hour rule, but the whole idea of lots of hard work, lots of practice goes into being an outlier, being very successful. So I want to think about not just everything you know about Flom, okay, but specifically, how did being Jewish have an effect in his success? Okay? And think about other successful lawyers. There's people like Flom, people who did similar things, and then there's other successful lawyers, and there's some specific reasons that it helped Flom to be in the situation he was as a Jewish American. What is that? Talk about that. Brief write-up. What's the lesson behind that? How does it tie into these larger themes we've talked about? Use the text, right? Don't just tell me this from your own ideas, which are important, but go back to the text and see if you can pinpoint something that connects it to one of those. Okay, when you write this up, include maybe either a quote or a paraphrase of a certain part of text that says, we think that being Jewish connects to this theme, and here's why. Do that. I'll see you in a moment. Okay, so last thing about this week's reading, which hopefully is through section 4. This idea of hostile takeovers is introduced. Now, if you don't understand hostile takeovers, there's a whole lot you're not going to get. Okay? So it really begins talking about them here in section 4, but it's going to matter beyond this. So what is a hostile takeover, and how does it connect to the story? So there's different ways you can learn about this, right? You could, maybe one of you knows, and so you're just talking about it. You can talk to one of your parents. You have Google. So I Google hostile takeover, and it really pops up first right here from Investopedia. By the way, Wikipedia, Investopedia, etc., they're different things actually. But so scratch that for a second. Wikipedia is fine for building background knowledge. It's actually very accurate. It's not fine to cite in research papers. It is fine when you want to learn about something. Okay? But this looks like a good source. There's others. There's even a Merriam-Webster definition down here. So do some sense making, discuss what it means, and think about how it connects to the story. Okay? Because this is something Flom was willing to get involved in that other people weren't, which helped his success. So give me a quick write-up of telling me what a hostile takeover is in words that make sense to you and how it ties in, and I'll see you in a moment. All right, well, welcome back again. So the last thing I want you to do for the reading that you've done is think about anything else that doesn't make sense to you. Okay? So I've tried to steer you toward vocabulary. I've tried to help you contextualize here. I've picked out something particular that I thought maybe would be a place that you would need to grow some background knowledge to understand what's going on. But this is the part where you as a reader are also just thinking through when something doesn't make sense, you do something about it. If nothing else, you've kind of highlighted it and you've put a big question mark out there. You're like, huh? So go back and see if there's anything that either of you were missing, a piece you were missing, something that was discussed that didn't completely make sense. So at the point where you're done with today's activity, you should really be able to explain to me everything we just talked about, right? Like, why is Flom important to this discussion? What makes him an outlier? And now we're looking at those maybe unexpected things, but we know they tie into these bigger themes, right? So which themes have we tied into already about his life? And then maybe things that haven't been addressed, you have questions going forward that you wonder about. Maybe you've challenged the author at some point. But in all of that, if there was a discussion along the way, if there was some piece that you don't fully understand, don't move forward without doing that. So discuss it with each other. Think about the resources you have, like Google, for example, if you need something. And then when you come back, which will be a new video because I'm about to run out of time for YouTube on this one, you'll be ready to move forward to the next part of the chapter. Okay? do that, and I'll see you on the next video.